Welcome to the GHQ Crew podcast, where golf meets laughs, legends, and a little bit of chaos. Before we dive into our swinging stories and banter, a quick heads up. The views expressed here are entirely our own and do not necessarily reflect those of the fine club companies we represent. So grab your favorite beverage, kick back, and let's get ready to tee off on a wild ride through the world of golf and beyond.
Welcome to the GHQ Crew podcast, where from shoes to gloves, our gear is guaranteed to get you that dub. Welcome to the live podcast this morning. This is going to be a great, again, we're going live. And so if you're watching live, be sure to leave comments. We'll answer them at the end. But yeah, we're live and in person this morning, and we have a special guest, Savant of the game. And it's going to be a great morning in the GHQ Crew podcast, just because, you know, it's always a great morning here at GHQ.
Yes, it is.
Jared, who do we got in the hot seat today?
Mr. Brian Fowler.
Morning.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
Doing great.
Dude, this guy,
Yeah.
I can't wait to talk to him about a few things, but this guy is, you nailed it,
A
savant.
Yeah.
Okay? So he's not, well, you're still kind of in the biz.
Kind of.
Right?
Yeah.
But when he was on the rep side and he was out there doing his thing, he had our background, right? And when he was out there doing his thing, it was Fowler Fitting and everybody else.
Yeah. Now, you worked for Sellinger's, right?
Yeah. Work for Sellinger's, work for a region, well, what used to be kind of a regional chain called Supreme Golf in Fort Worth, and Callaway and Trixon Cleveland. And
All the above, right? Yeah. You've been in the golf industry a long time.
long time.
And when Jared says it was his fittings here and then everybody else, go a little deeper in that, Jared.
Oh, dude. You want to know about shaft dynamics and all this? He's got it. My favorite story of Fowler is he actually fit a guest that we had on not too long ago, a local legend in Martin Board.
You fit Martin.
And absolutely melted his brain, which I don't know if that's that hard to do.
No, I can only imagine, though.
But
Because if you get Martin talking about numbers and thinking about numbers, it's just like meltdown mode.
yeah,
Well, that was the problem, is he was too concerned with numbers,
Sure.
and he wasn't hitting a window that he wanted to see.
And which for Martin's very important, because most people, they're like, I want to hit this window. Martin's like, I want to hit this window.
I mean, it's a testament to Martin's skill set that
Yeah,
you
for
even
sure.
remember that fitting in the first place, right? I mean, you see hundreds of people every weekend, right? And to be able to single one out, I mean, where would you rank Martin in terms of ball strikers that you've seen in your career?
From a consumer standpoint, extremely high. I mean, consistency and ball striking level. I mean, he was pretty close to working with the collegiate players, tour guys.
Yeah. I mean, he's pretty filthy.
Yeah.
But Fowler puts him in a C taper S. How do you think that went?
Very poorly.
I mean, the thing about C taper S, and this is what makes him brilliant, is when you're going in 1.25 inches, I mean, it's going to play pretty close to X anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's a pole
Sure.
in a stiff anyway.
And these were going into Trixons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll let Fowler tell you, but there's a really good reason why you did that. You know,
Well,
the ZX7's a lower spinning head.
It's a really low spinning head, and it was a big event at Ranchland, and everybody was hitting balls, and it was during kind of a lull, so I didn't really have anyone I was working with, and I was watching him go back and forth from the line back to the table with the Callaway guys. They were going back and forth and changing shafts and changing shafts and changing shafts, and he was in a head that it was a muscle back head, and a blade head. A lot of people misunderstand. Blade heads are designed for control, so they inherently tend to spin a bit more. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people's mentality is, well, I'm a good player, I swing hard, I need blade. No.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work that way. It's so he was in the wrong head, and when you starting in the wrong head, you can only get so far with the shaft. So I mean, it's kind of damage control mode. He was trying to, how can I affect the launch and spin enough to make this head work? Because he fell in love with the head, and I've done this over the years because I just get a little worn out with watching people go down a rabbit hole chasing futility. So I put together a ZX7 head with a C-taper stiff and just leaned it against the table. It's like, just try that when you get a second. And just walked off and was just watching him and waited for him to pick that up. And he picked it up, and his flight went from floaty on too high of a window that would just climb and climb. And you could tell right when it started to run out of forward momentum, it had a little lift in the trajectory. It was just too much launch, too much spin.
Little floaty.
Yeah. So I was like, just try that when you get a second. I saw him grab it and hit a couple with it, and everything apexed about 30 feet lower and flat. And you could tell for the first 3 or 4 balls, he just didn't believe it. Like something, he couldn't process why it was working and what it was doing.
Right.
And he just kept hitting it. And he looked at me and was like, what did you do? He was like,
That sounds just like Martin, dude. Like you could just see him just going,
Yeah, and I think especially with OEMs, what gets lost is the effort to get quality fitters working. Because to be honest with you, it makes sense because there's not a lot. You know, there are not enough really great fitters for the OEMs to snatch up and have running demo days.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if they did that, your $1,000 iron set turns into an $1,100 iron set because really good fitters are going to require a little bit more money to keep out on the road every day and not running their own facility or working in a shop or working with, your kind of elite players, whether it's, through an OEM or through one of your really boutique fit and build kind of shops. So it's very nuts and bolts fitting. Here's the fitting manual. If someone fits in this box, do this. If they fit in this box, do this. And it doesn't work that way.
Dude, I say that in so many fittings. I call it the fitting book. If you opened up the fitting book, right, you should be X, Y, and Z. But, one of my favorite things to talk about, because I think it's one of the biggest flaws in fitting and one of the biggest errors people make as fitters to fit just solely based on speed. Mm-hmm. I see it all the time. And when you base your fitting off of speed and speed alone, and then you start checking the numbers boxes of spin, launch, side spin, so on, there's so much that you miss about the player dynamically through that. And I love this story because, dude, Martin's like a 102 guy with a 7-iron. He's a freak.
Yeah, he's got some
Yeah.
He's got he's got, tour level speed, like legit. But that doesn't mean it has to be an X.
Exactly.
So again, that would have been a huge mistake, and quite frankly, a mistake everyone on the range except you made of trying to fit him in that box. And there's certainly some clubs, like the ones that he has now, the artisan clubs that are sledgehammers, that X7 makes sense in because that head's heavy enough to activate it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's an interesting little puzzle fitting is, and as long as you see it that way, you'll produce good fittings.
I think we get that question a lot too, is before anybody ever gets in the bay, they come in the shop and they're like, hey, what swing speed do I need to have to swing an extra stiff?
Right.
And I'm like, well, it's not so much swing speed, it's the dynamic of the swing that really justifies the shaft, not flex, but the shaft that we put you in. And that's the common misconception is, oh, if I swing 110 and up, I need an extra stiff in my driver. Well, not necessarily.
Yeah.
That's
so I don't know if you even know this, but when the shaft optimizer from Mizuno first came out, when it was like in its prototype,
revolutionary.
When it was in its prototype stages, and it was at the time.
Yeah, it was.
It really was.
For sure.
But when it was in its prototype stages, I went to Vegas and kind of got to see it, and they asked us to poke holes or just kind of ask questions and so on. And I was just fascinated by the whole thing. But the thing that got lost Because again, it was basically a fitting book. Here's your DNA, your number system, and it's going to put it in the computer and spit out through the algorithm what shafts you need. Okay. Well, on the surface, in a base level fitting, it's awesome. But invariably, you would go down the list and the number 7 shaft would work better than the number 1 shaft. Well, why? Because dynamics are different.
Yep.
But they got one thing, in my opinion, so correct that, again, gets overlooked all the time in fittings, which is tempo,
Yep.
right? If you're a slower tempo person, that's really where your weight dynamic, I would say most of the time, will come from. Right?
Yeah, I think the Mizuno, what they got, the tempo, and because the sensors are inside the shaft, it's measuring how that player loads the shaft and the tempo. So I think what they almost mismarketed it. I think instead of having it show this is the shaft you need, because it spits out multiple recommendations. So instead of saying you need this because this is number 1 on the list, that chunk of shafts, that's the one you hit.
Correct.
So
Which is what we always did.
hit these guys, and the one that gives you the launch and spin characteristics that you're after with the head that you're using, that's the one you go with. So it just helps kind of narrow down the field.
Yeah.
Mike Slipko used to get so mad at me because the part of the Mizuno reps deal is when they came around and with all the shaft analyzers, there was a way they could hit a series of buttons and they would tell you how many uses it had. He used to get so mad at me because he would come in after, a couple months and there'd be like 4 uses on it.
Sure.
It's like, are you even using this? Yeah. Use it a couple times.
Yeah. Yeah. So we eventually got to the point where, and Clinton, you could probably back me up on this because it was a very intentional thing for me. I required everybody here to use it.
I think
you had to start the fitting with it.
I think it's a great foundation.
Correct.
It's a great
That's the
foundation
whole deal.
to give you an idea of what direction to go in. And especially for inexperienced fitters.
Right.
It's a wonderful tool because I know that, like, for me in 2011, getting in that bay, there's so much that you don't know, and you're like, okay, well, he's swinging 87, he's real steep. Where do I go with this? Well, the Mizuno would give you a great foundation to start with, and as the years would go on, you kind of got an idea of what those numbers meant without the optimizer. But at the beginning, man, it was a lifesaver.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah, and that's the point. Is eventually you get to where you were, which is, I get it now, right? And you don't really have to use it, but it's also understanding the golf swing and so on. So that leads me to my next question.
No.
When did you get started in golf? And was the golf industry always the goal?
It wasn't always the goal, but I feel like I was pointed that way early on because it's weird. If you go, I'm originally from Fort Worth, and if you go to Fort Worth, if you're a golfer in Fort Worth, there's a lot of Hogan and Nelson tie-ins, and so that's kind of my family, both sides of my family, oddly enough. So my great uncle on my mom's side was a member at Glen Garden Country Club in Fort Worth when Hogan and Nelson were still caddies.
Wow.
And he loved Nelson to death, and they stayed in contact until he passed away in the early 90s. And they would chat on the phone, and he'd go out to his ranch in Roanoke every now and then. And then Hogan, he never really talked to after he quit caddying at Glen Garden, and that's just the way he was. He was not a super sociable person. And then on my dad's side of the family, my dad's dad was a pilot, and he was, to tie into your oil and gas connections in Midland, Odessa, he was Eddie Child's pilot.
Oh, wow.
So flying for Eddie, Eddie was one of Hogan's buddies at Shady Oaks. And so he was kind of tied in on that side because he flew Hogan a number of times. He flew a lot of his tour buddies and Eddie Child's friends because Eddie raised quarter horses too. So he would go pick up guys that wanted to buy a horse from Eddie. Mm-hmm. He would pick them up wherever they were and fly them back to Fort Worth, and they go out to the ranch and they'd buy a horse or two or something. So like my aunt is absolutely in love with Gary Player because there was a weather delay, mm-hmm. and they flew out of Meacham in North Fort Worth. So and they live pretty close to there. So there's a weather delays. Nobody could fly, so they went back to my grandpa's house and they had dinner there. And she was just absolutely enthralled with Gary Player, and she's still just in love with him to the day. But so then my dad ends up working as a kid at the Hogan factory, and that was anyone who knows club manufacturing, especially in that time, because it was a whole different process. Now, if you're at Strixon or if you're at Callaway or wherever, you get a shipment of heads in, you open the box, they're finished. Back then, they did all the plating in-house. They got raw forgings in from the vendor, whatever vendor was creating the actual head. So they had to be, sometimes had to be ground to shape, and they had all the excess scale and flash from the forging process still on the heads. So you'd take the raw heads and they'd go into the vibratory. So think about a rock tumbler. Mm-hmm. So imagine a room full of gigantic rock tumblers that you put golf club heads into that just shake and rotate. And it's the messiest, dustiest, loudest room in the entire factory. And he worked in the vibratory room.
Oh my goodness.
The worst job in the plant.
Yeah.
And he would, you put eventually after you start, you get a pattern down. So he said you would go through and get all the machines prepped, get all of them going, and walk through the room and hit start, and hit all of them. And he said you got the timing down to the point where you could start all of them, leave the room so you didn't have the dust and the noise, go down to the break room and get a Coca-Cola out of the vending machine, go outside and drink a Coke and have a cigarette, come back inside, all your machines are wrapping up. So you find a way to kind of jock the system.
Yeah.
But yeah, my dad worked at the plant, and then oddly enough, my wife's grandma actually worked at the plant in assembly also.
Holy cow.
So it's just tons of
So you were
tie-ins
around it your whole life.
Yeah, and grew up with the family playing golf, and then played through high school. Got really interested in the equipment side of things. When I started working at Supreme, got a little bit more into the fitting side and met some guys that worked for Hogan back in the day, and got tied in with the guys at what they call the model shop. So after Callaway purchased Hogan, which funnily enough they didn't want to. It was a package deal. They didn't want Hogan. So when Spalding was having their going out of business fire sale, you had to buy the entire golf portfolio. They wanted Top Flight to get the ball manufacturing capabilities and patents.
Yeah.
But in order to get Top Flight, they had to take Hogan too.
Because didn't Top Flight at the time
Oh,
have
huge.
more ball patents than anybody?
They were up there.
I mean,
There were very few people who actually produced the golf ball.
Yeah.
There weren't a lot of factories that did it. So that was the big carrot for Callaway, was getting the manufacturing capabilities and the patents involved.
Because I know, and I may have this reverse, and you're probably one of the only people that could correct me on this, just because it was a long time ago. But let me think here. It was Callaway that sued Titleist on the Pro V1 at one point. Isn't that correct? Because
Yes.
they had one of those it was something with the dimple pattern or something.
I think it was something having to do with the solid core design of the ball. 'Cause
Okay.
The Top Flight Strata was the first solid core golf
There we
ball.
go. Yeah. So it was a Top Flight patent that allowed them to do that, right?
Yeah, and they had to come up with, there was some kind of end around where they had to change manufacturing a little bit.
Well, it was really cool because, all's well that ends well. They came to an agreement and everything was cool. But I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to cost Titleist a gazillion dollars if they had to pull everything, which I think they did, or I can't remember how it worked out, or maybe there was a royalty pay. I just don't remember.
Yeah, it wasn't anything major. I mean, it's kind of on the level of, you know, Michelin suing Goodyear for making tires round.
Yeah. Well, it was one of my favorite lawsuit stories from this industry when PXG got all bent out of shape, and they tried to sue TaylorMade for a patent infringement on the hollow cavity with goo, right? And I remember reading this in like Digest or something, but the response from TaylorMade's attorney was absolute gold. He goes, unless you've been living under a rock for the past 20 years in the golf industry, you would know we patented that first, and it's been around for that long, right? So,
Well, then TaylorMade went after, was it Kirkland? Kirkland started making a hollow body iron and selling them in Costco.
oh really?
It was like a direct copy of the patent of the P series.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
790, 770.
So I guess they won that one.
TaylorMade went after them pretty hot and heavy.
Wow.
TaylorMade's very familiar with
Lawsuits.
courtroom.
Well, we all know that's why they acquired Adams. Chip
Yeah.
Brewer, man.
Cheaper to buy them than to
To fight them
carry
in
on
court.
the suit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because if you'll remember, dude, everything in their line, in their pipeline, had that slot tech in it for the next 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
And TaylorMade was like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
Because they were going to have to pay a royalty and everything.
Yeah.
And what's hilarious is when that first started, I think TaylorMade was like, no.
No, this is different.
We have the bottom slot. And Adams went, well, sorry, boys, but we patented both the top
and
the
bottom.
bottom.
Yeah.
So,
And what's funny is because you appreciate it because you're an Adams loyalist. Like Adams made I think you would agree. Adams by far made the best hybrids
Hybrids and fairways.
on the market.
well, dude, I had such respect for that company.
Yeah.
And it was in, the DFW area.
Yeah, I know.
In Plano, yeah. And, they were just, and dude, the transparency and just the way, dude, Chip Brewer, I mean, how many CEOs of a company would you ever get to meet? And dude, Chip was so cool and came in there and just, hung out with us and, just
Oh, yeah.
did a Q&A with us. It was so cool. And I've had a lot of respect for him for that.
Chip went to
Callaway.
Yeah, I met him at the NGBA show in 14.
Yeah.
He was there. Super guy. And
Yeah.
like he knows the game as well as far as the clubs go. And you're like, holy smokes.
Well, he had a great staff under him in terms of R&D, like Blair Phillip and some of those guys. But dude, I'm telling you, that guy is brilliant when it comes to innovation.
Yeah.
And Chip's always had that. He's always had, 2 or 3 drivers, and then, he's got something right behind it.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the Chip's greatest skill is the ability to make money.
Yeah. It's true.
You could, I mean, if he decided tomorrow that he's done with the golf industry and went to be a CEO of anything, they will make money.
Yeah.
Give them a little while to understand the business, and they're moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
I just wish, TaylorMade bought Adams. I wish they would have kept the design theory in their hybrids and rescues.
Yeah.
The closest thing now is the QI10 Tour Rescue. It looks like the old Peanut from Adams, but it's just not the same.
Well, Callaway's got it going now.
Yeah.
Because TaylorMade didn't take advantage of all that, and Chip now is running.
I believe there were some Adams guys brought into TaylorMade or brought into Callaway.
100%.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, you knew the death nail right out of the gate was when they acquired Adams. TaylorMade was very adamant about saying, no, we're going to continue Adams as Adams. Adams Golf is Adams Golf. We're going to carry on. Nothing's going to change. You're done. You're cooked.
Yeah.
Well, and what's crazy is, it's just been recent, like within the last 5 years, that TaylorMade really started to capitalize on the ladies market. That was a part of the market that I thought companies, well, I thought and think that companies fail regularly on.
Catastrophically.
And yeah, and Adams had it cornered, dude. They had the best ladies line out there. I mean, if they were a good player all the way down to a beginner, Adams had it figured out, and it was good stuff.
Yeah.
And TaylorMade had Boardwalk and Park Place, and they blew it.
Why do you think they fell catastrophically, Brian?
Well, it's the largest growing segment of golfers in the game.
Ladies.
Yes. And a lot of people, I think, have a weird outlook on it because they're thinking, well, you know, ladies aren't going to come in and spend $500 on a driver. They're not going to spend $1,000 on an iron set. Here's this nice little $399 box set. We can sell them this. Think about it. Are you married?
I am, yep.
Okay. When has your wife ever asked you to buy something? They just do it.
Yeah.
They just do it. I know my ass is in a sling if I spend $500 on something and have it run it by the CFO.
Give them the heads up.
Yeah, but I'll come home and there is a flipping Louis Vuitton box
Yeah.
somewhere. And was I consulted?
No.
No. So they are going to buy what they're going to buy.
Sure.
If you can draw the attention and give them something that they want to buy, they're going to flip and buy it.
Yeah.
So how are you missing that whole huge segment of the industry?
Dude, I'll never forget it. Adams had that carry set. Remember that?
Yeah.
It was all designer.
Yeah.
I mean,
Expensive.
yeah, I can't remember the price on it, but it was like $1,500-1,700 bucks.
Yeah.
And we could not
Can't
keep
get
them.
enough.
Yeah. They loved it. They loved it. And it was great stuff.
Go out to Odessa Country Club and look at how many Zexio bags you see.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
So we just got to tell the ladies what to buy.
Well, yeah, but
No, you don't, that's the cool thing. Is you don't have to tell them.
Yeah. Just give them an option.
You just have to show them that there is a premium option,
Sure.
and it's actually better. It's not just fancy.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's actually better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And show them why. Tell them why it's better. Have them hit it, and let them see that you're not bullshitting them. That look, this is really better.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's the first time in the last, I'd say 5 to 7 years probably. This is the first time that I can recall there actually being viable competition there.
Sure.
Where you have, TaylorMade's got a very nice
Kalia Gold.
Kalia, and then you've got
Riva.
Riva.
The
and
new
then you have
Zexio sets.
the Zexios. I mean, there's a whole lineup of really good stuff now. And that's so great to see. Now, if we could get the clothing manufacturers to figure out something to where.
Shout out to Delane with Club Special. Local girl has done an amazing job with the ladies' clothes. We have a wall specifically dedicated to her. If you haven't been in the shop to see it, you need to come by. And she's constantly in here changing, making sure that it's up to date, making sure that you ladies have the best and hippest apparel. Yeah, she's done a great job.
I love what you said there because a lot of ladies are going to love the hippest.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the greatest. It's sorry.
What?
The hippest.
Thank
Well,
you,
maybe they
Papaw.
There we go, Connor.
And there's Kana.
But
Yeah.
no, like what's really cool about Delane, and this is the absolute truth, she listens too, bro.
Sure.
And like she can't, I'm sure she wishes she could do everything right for everybody, but dude, she's changed the fit, the length, all kinds of different things just because she's listening to the ladies. And she's actually in some big clubs in DFW now. Like, she's crushing it.
Nice.
And if you show up and we don't have the size, it's a simple text to her, and it's usually here same day.
Yeah.
You're not waiting a week from a clothing manufacturer to get the product in. She's in Odessa.
Yeah.
So
She'll just drive it over.
you know who else has done really well in the ladies that we've carried is the Mizuno JPX-Q irons.
Yeah.
Those sets have done extremely well. Mizuno released a set of irons, graphite ladies at $7.99. It's 6 down through the sand wedge. They're incredible.
Well, and Fowler, you know, he pushed, you know, Cleveland Strixon Zexio,
Yeah.
and that went crazy.
It's speaking as a fitter,
Yeah.
as someone who's worked with top level talent. Nothing is more fun than working with Zexio.
Why is that?
Well, because you see stuff you don't see working with a good player. When you're working with a really good player, you're looking for incremental improvement. Unless they're in something that's completely wrong.
Sure.
You're looking for just incremental improvement. The greatest single driver fitting I've ever done was an 80-year-old guy in San Antonio with a Zexio Prime driver. Have you ever gotten someone a 49% improvement in carry distance with a driver?
If I have, I don't remember.
Yeah.
This,
I mean, that's unheard of.
this poor old guy was just, I mean, he didn't hit it hard enough to hurt it. I mean, he was carrying his driver 100 yards. We got him in a Zexio Prime, and he picked up, I think, 4 or 5 miles an hour of head speed and went to a 149 carry average.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
You know, a lot of people get kind of jaded when they start working with really good players, and they're like, well, 149 carry, 100-yard carry. I'm not going to waste my time working with that guy. But this dude's 80-something years old.
Yeah.
What does he do?
Plays golf. That's it. And dude, you probably changed that guy's life. I mean,
Yes.
he was probably doing, well, not cartwheels, but maybe in his brain he was doing cartwheels.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he
Like,
can hit
that
a
was-
par 4 in regulation now.
That was game changer for him.
Yeah.
It's not driver 3-wood 7-iron. You know, he's able to hit either maybe a hybrid into a green now, where he used to have to lay up to it.
Chris Mertz just said, he said, I need Jared to find me a driver with those kind of gains.
Mertz hits it like 390. What's he?
Yeah. He said, I need
Well,
those kind of gains.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Is most of the R&D work, most of the drivers you're buying in the store are designed around the parameters of the best players in the world.
Sure.
That's your R&D team. That's who they take it to test and to hit. They take it to their tour staff, or wherever they're based. They have a local network of guys that are good players, and they have people test it out.
And that was Zexio's whole avenue, was to go after those who are kind of ignored in the golf industry, to give them that speed back, that distance. That was kind of their whole thought process.
They took this crazy radical idea and designed golf clubs for people who play golf.
Yeah.
Yes, it's wild.
Yeah, if you go to a golf course on a Saturday morning, and who's in line waiting for their tee times? It's a large percentage of women, and it's a very large percentage of older guys.
Sure.
You know, and
Retired.
yeah. And I'm not saying not all these guys are swinging their driver 70 miles an hour, you know, but there's a huge portion of the golfing public that is 65 and older.
Yeah.
So out of that big chunk, some of those guys are the guy that was he was the club champion 20 years ago, and he can still swing his driver 95 miles an hour. That guy's there. And that's the guy you sell the pro line equipment to. But, you know, most of these folks are, I mean, look at all the driving distance averages you see Golf Digest put out when they break it down by handicap or they break it down by age. Most of these people are hitting their driver 180 to 240 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're all they're all playing a driver that's designed for a guy who's going to hit it on the button 99 times out of 100 and is swinging 105 and up.
Yeah.
So it doesn't jive. That's why there's so many weird setups that you end up having to do. You know, if you got a guy that comes in and says, I have to have a GT2 driver.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Smith, but you know, you swing 82 miles an hour. You know, we're carrying up 215.
Well, and to your point,
Let's try this.
a lot of the times it's busting out that, hey man, I got a wild card for you.
Yeah.
I just want you to try this new product. But what happens is they can't spin that product enough or what have you. And out here in West Texas, we hear it all the time, man. I mean, literally every day. I want to hit it lower because of our wind condition. And the problem with that is, and it's just straight physics, if you don't have enough swing speed, if you're a lower swing speed player, we're going to get our yardage from carry,
Yes.
not from friction that the ground is producing when the ball hits it, right? It's stopping the forward momentum of the golf ball. So what's great about Zexio, and by the way,
It spins.
it spins. It'll hold it in the air for that player.
Yeah.
And if you have a low swing speed, if you use the more, higher CG, more forward weighting drivers, which a lot of them are now because that's a big part of distance for guys that swing it over 90. They're not going to be able to swing hard enough to produce enough spin or launch to hold it in the air. It's just going to literally fall out of the air. That's where Zexio does such a great job. And not for nothing, what's super cool about that company, it's only this year that I've seen this actually. They actually started putting ionic grips on, which is super cool. We saw that the other day when we were jacking around. But, bro, everything from top to bottom, the shaft, the grip, the ferrule, the head, everything about that is Zexio's.
Yeah.
Nothing's outsourced. They do all of it. And it's so specific for the club.
Yeah.
So if people wonder, well, why does it have a little higher price point? It's not because Zexio's necessarily trying to attack, the retired guy that has some money, right? That's not what they're trying to. It just costs more to do it that way.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it is a premium product. It's really, really awesome stuff. So
Well, that's, being in the carbon industry, that is a huge deal that when a lot of people look at it at face value and say, oh, well, they outsourced this, they outsourced that. When you go and try to do everything for yourself, the price does this.
Right.
It goes through the roof.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain that to people, but when they actually pick up the product and understand, oh, well, they actually put some love into this and they care what shaft's here. They care what the head does. They care how it looks aesthetically. They begin to understand, okay, well, it's worth paying the extra $500 or $600 for the set.
right.
Well, grab another ladies driver out there and swing mate it. See what
Sure.
it comes out to. It's like a toy.
Yeah.
There's no head feel. There's no. The club does not have an appropriate.
And the shafts
balance.
do this.
Yeah. So you can pick up Zexio, take it back there and do some measurements, and it balances as a proper golf club.
Sure.
That's where the grip thing comes in, because that's and that I think a lot of people don't realize this. I feel like I'm a Strixon commercial. I don't even work for them anymore. Well, Strixon's owned by Sumitomo Rubbers. That's why they make a really good golf ball. They're a rubber company. It's kind of what they do. So with the Zexio stuff, they made everything in the Zexio club. The only thing is they don't have titanium casting foundries, obviously, so they can't make the head. But the shaft is made by Miyazaki, which they own.
Yeah.
The grip is a rubber product, Sumitomo Rubber Industries. They made the grips. So they could tailor everything as far as weights and balance points to give the club a proper balance
Yeah.
at extremely light weights that people who don't swing fast can use. So, I mean, Zexio is going to work for a pretty good chunk of players. Even if you could right now, and you guys, if you ever do, because I've seen a lot of your iron ads that are going right now, they're pretty cool. If you ever do a Zexio one, just a proof of concept, take 3 swings and average it with your driver. Take 3 swings with a Zexio driver and average it. You will swing a Zexio driver faster because of the
Sure.
science involved.
Right.
It will not work for you, but you'll swing it faster.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you take a lady swinging in the 60s or 70s or an older guy swinging in the 70s, low 80s, if you can give them 3, 4, 5 miles an hour head speed, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, you saw it in your story
Yeah.
in San Antonio. I mean,
Proof of concept. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So your whole family has been surrounded by golf.
Yep.
Your whole life. Where did you first start in the fitting and kind of getting into that avenue there?
So when I think I started like a lot of people in the industry do, working retail and just kind of figuring it out and talking with a couple manufacturer reps and learning, why you do certain things. And then when I met the guys at the model shop at Hogan, that's guys who worked in the infancy of fitting, where all you were really doing is lie angle, and there were only like 5 shafts. So
Sure.
it wasn't like there was a whole lot of options to get really in depth into fitting. But they taught me a lot of cool little tricks of ways that it was done in the old days. Is they would take all the labels off the shafts, so they knew what they were, but the guy swinging it didn't. So they would figure out how to hit a certain ball flight window that a player is looking for, and do it without telling them what they're swinging. Because now, if you look at a lot of tour guys, you can break them into thirds. You got about a third of them that have no flipping clue what they're swinging. It either works or it doesn't. Mm-hmm. You got a third of them that are about like your average kind of golf nerd that has a pretty good idea what it is.
Sure.
But he doesn't really know why it works. It just works or it doesn't. And then you got about a third of them that is just total paralysis through analysis. I mean, they're
The
measuring-
DeChambeaus.
Oh my God, yeah, that just wear you slick.
Yeah.
But back in the day, everybody they didn't, unless they were tied into a manufacturer, like lived near a facility and helped them with R&D stuff, they didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, this one works or this one doesn't work.
Well, isn't there still a tree at Shady that Ben Hogan would bend his irons on? Like he would bang his iron against a tree
To get the lie to go a little
to
flat,
change the lie
upright,
angle.
flat. Yeah.
Yeah, they would they would do it on the floor.
Yeah.
They'd pick something up and hold it, and if it didn't look right, you just whack, bang it on the floor and check it again. There's tons of stories about guys in the industry that's if you needed to bend it flatter, you bang it on the floor. If you needed to bend it more upright, you just hold it and you whack it with a hammer.
Well, the guys
Like Ping
the guys
does?
still bring me. The guys will still bring me putters, and be like, "Man, can we bend this? Sure." Foot on it, give it a couple of moves, and
Yeah, you don't need a $1,000 Mitchell machine to
yeah.
bend a putter.
There's actually one behind Brian that got bent against a tree in the Grudge Cup.
Ah, yes.
If Brendan is still watching, we got your putter in the background, buddy.
Yep.
We call that percussive maintenance.
Yeah. So
But yeah, that's the way guys used to fit. I mean, they knew what they had. They knew what they were handing you, but the player didn't.
yeah.
And you would learn all kinds of little tricks about how to help guys hit a certain window, whatever they're looking for. And it all ties into how somebody swings the club.
Sure.
But I think that's when you get into great fitters and you're one of them. And we've already talked about this. I'm coming in February and kind of retooling a little bit. But I've got all of West Texas, basically from Aledo, Weatherford area west, and all of New Mexico. There are 2 guys that I will take advice on what I should be playing. You and Chris Lopez, who you know also.
Oh yeah.
Only 2 in this whole area that I'll take advice from. Because I think where a lot of people lose sight of what it is, they work off the manual. They haven't seen it enough. I mean, with everything, you get better with repetition. The more you see, the more you can zero in on certain patterns and how to help people achieve certain things in it. Mm-hmm. And I think really good fitters really understand this golf swing also.
Sure.
Like if you look at guys who are setting up a race car, the guy who's tinkering with the suspension is probably a driver too.
Yep.
So it's the same kind of thing. When you have so many subjective things and so many objective things, and you have to blend them together, you kind of have to have somebody who has a foundation of both sides. Understanding the motion and the tool.
Right.
Absolutely. Jared's one of the best in the business.
So there's not a lot of that out there.
No, not at all. And again, all it takes, and for anybody watching, all it takes is if you come in and you see Jared in a fitting, go stand at the door and listen. Just go stand at the door and listen. It is amazing. It really is. And so did you work for the model shop?
I worked with them a little bit. I helped them with a lot of building and a lot of working with some collegiate players. Mike Flynn was there for a while, and Flynn did mini tour, developmental tour, and collegiate stuff for Callaway for a long time. And he would send me guys at Sellinger's to work with.
Who was your favorite high level guy that you ever got to fit?
In terms of just their action, or just hanging out with that guy, or what?
Yeah. So both.
The most fun to work with is probably Jamie Sidlowski.
Yeah.
That boy could move it.
Well, it wasn't just the speed; he had a great action. I mean, guy can play. He's a stick.
I just remember the episode of
He's a good player.
Yeah.
Golf Central when he was on the morning show, and what's his name? Was it Michael Breed? Had him in the simulator, and they were hitting balls into the screen, and the first ball out the gate, Jamie Sadlowski just let go, and it went through the screen.
Well, he told him it was going to.
Yeah, just live on TV.
He's like, it's going to go through it.
Yeah. So you actually worked with Jamie.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Jamie's a good dude, and that's one of those. It's enjoyable to work with just because it's a great action. He's really consistent. And he's just a good dude. It was a good hang too.
Yeah.
A good hang.
God, who else?
Jamie was also a good player though too.
Really good player.
Yeah.
He played Canadian Tour a little bit. Had some starts on the. God, what was it at that time? The Nationwide.
Web.com.
Would he
Nationwide.
swing like he would for the long drive
No.
in competition, or did he chill out?
No, he's lost a little bit of speed as of now, but his back then with the competition club and swinging a long club, he was high 1 or high 2 teens, low 220s ball speed. And now, I mean, golf course swing. Well, back then, golf course swing was around a 200-mile-an-hour ball speed.
Oh, that's it. Not bad.
Well, if you think about it,
Jeez,
there's parallels. That's the thing, is you can't get lost in the comedy of how fast everything is. There's parallels to it. If you think about somebody and they're just trying to gas one versus their stock swing, you might see about a 10% change. Mm-hmm. That's what we're talking about there. His golf course swing was about a 200-mile-an-hour ball speed, and
222.
Catch one with a competition club, he's low 220s.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. We're seeing about a 10% fall off in ball speed.
It's probably my least favorite thing from a fitting perspective was the long drive stuff.
Everybody chases it.
And it's no disrespect to anybody that I've worked with on it. It's just a really hard fit.
Yeah.
Because I hate to
just say it.
Well, the swing's just not that consistent
At all.
It just typically isn't.
Yeah.
And so that's a really hard model.
There's with the long drive guys, there's two categories. You got hitters and swingers.
Yeah.
So there are guys that are golfers that are just really freaking fast.
Yeah.
And there are guys that have just figured out how to move a stick fast
and hopefully make contact.
And hopefully they square it up.
Yeah.
1 out of 5 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like Chris Mertz that commented a minute ago, like, dude, this guy, and he played a little bit professionally before getting out, and guy was a stud. He was really good back in the day. And not to say he's not good now, he's still good, but dude, the guy moves it. And it's not out of control. And so that's really what I'm talking about. Like fitting Mertz for a driver, which dude, we've been trying to beat this driver that he's got for 5 years.
What's he playing still?
It's a TaylorMade 2017 M2, and he just beats the cover off of it.
Yeah.
And even with the newer tech, and I feel like that a couple of times we've gotten the number right, like we've beat it. But it's like Fowler's saying, it's incremental change.
Yeah.
So okay, you can beat it that way, but can you beat it
This
that
way.
way?
Yep.
Right? And especially at that speed, minute error. Like you could be off a 30-second on the way down.
By the time it gets there, though.
And it,
Yeah.
it can be a huge difference out there. And if you
yeah.
change the feel element for a guy like that, even a little bit, it can cause issues.
Well, sometimes you found that magic bullet. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, the only issue is if the way he swings it, right, at that speed, if he blows that thing up, he's gonna be forced to. We're gonna get one. I told him we're gonna beat that driver at some point.
If he's got that kind of gas, he's on the clock. There's only so many shots that driver's got.
Sure. Especially the M2.
But the smoothness of his move relative to some of the long drive guys that I've worked with in the past, and you know how the long drive deal is, right? Like Robert Brown, shout out to him. Yeah. He's a legitimate contender.
Yeah.
He was one of those guys. I mean, he was, what was it, 415 or something that he hit it back there?
So when we opened at the old shop, the first time we had the new bay open,
Yeah.
he sent a ball through the screen.
Yeah.
Like the very first
Dude,
ball
he would
hit,
ruin my nets.
It was bad.
Yeah. And I would just be like, freaking run.
But in here, a couple months ago on the AI Smoke Triple Diamond, he had one over 4.
Yeah.
It was like 409.
Yeah, he's a freak.
Yeah.
And I would never challenge him after breaking my nets because he would break my neck.
Absolutely.
But he's stronger
He's
as an
6'5" and he's just
Yeah, he's just ripped, shredded.
Yeah, and that's what we used to see with the long drive guys. We saw guys that were just. I mean, it was like the mountain from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Just enormous humans, and then you
Yeah.
had some guys that would come up that were 5'10" to 6 foot and kind of wiry that were just fast.
Jamie
That just-
Sadlowski.
Yeah, that just had speed.
Yeah.
But I mean, some people know how to move a stick fast. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those
Nope.
people. Nope. I don't know.
So where did you go from Sellingers? You went into more of a rep place.
Yeah, the whole time I was working with Callaway, I was trying to find a place where I could get in as an outside sales rep for them. And I worked for Callaway for 8 years, doing tech rep stuff and helping the model shop guys, helping with some of the fittings for those developmental tour guys and the collegiate players. And I interviewed for 28 rep positions.
Holy cow.
Whoa.
28 with Callaway. Made it to the final selection on a couple of them, and then interviewed a number of times for Cleveland, also a couple times for Wilson, and ended up getting a Cleveland job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's what got me moved out here to Lubbock and working with you guys.
So, because the only reason I asked is James Lloyd just got on a few minutes ago. You came in after James.
I did. James.
Yep.
So when James got the Cleveland job for Dallas, I was on the trip to interview for that job too.
Okay. Yep. And so
James had a retail background too, didn't he?
James worked for Watts back in the day. He worked for Wilson also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah,
a good one, man.
I
James.
feel like I've just followed James through the golf industry.
Well,
Like,
not
we
a
were
bad
both-
guy to follow.
No.
Yeah, I mean we were both on that same trip to interview for the Cleveland stuff, and he got
Yeah.
it. And then he left Cleveland and went to Club Car, and it was North Texas for Club Car, and I left Cleveland for Club Car and have West Texas, New Mexico for Club Car.
Yeah. How's that going?
It's fantastic.
You love it?
I like it.
I mean, not for nothing. I'm going to help you out here. That's the best golf cart by a mile, in my opinion.
I agree. It's different when you're working with. So I'm on the golf side, so I sell fleets to golf courses. I don't sell to individuals or to dealers. So when you're doing fleets to golf courses, there's a lot more involved. It's when you're buying 100 cars versus looking for one 4-seater to tool around the neighborhood with.
Right.
So it's a little bit more in depth. I agree. It is the superior product, but there's more involved when you're dealing with large fleet stuff. And
Sure.
sometimes it boils down to price. Sometimes the argument is yes, this is a better product. I mean, what part of your life do you not expect something better to cost a little bit more?
I can't think of a thing. In fact, if I'm on Amazon buying something random,
you're not expecting,
and
it
it's
to be very good.
$7.95 for one thing, but it's $8.10 for. I'll buy the 810 one.
Yeah,
It's like phone chargers.
Yeah,
Those cheap little gas station phone chargers you spend $12 on, or you go to the phone store and spend $45 on the actual Apple product.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to buy 4 of those gas station chargers before.
Yeah, you're paying for longevity. You're paying for longevity. That's
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah, and the consumer market, everybody has these Chinese golf cars, and if you think about it, if you're buying one for yourself, do not buy a golf cart that you do not see a fleet of on a golf course.
Sure.
If you don't see a fleet of them on a golf course, they cannot survive.
That's such a good point. That is brilliant.
you lost me. What?
So, you explain it.
Well, think about, if you go to Lowe's, you can get a Coleman 4-seat golf cart for like $8,000, right?
Yeah, they've
Who
got
makes
a new one there for like 22 grand now.
Well, think about the brands on those.
Never heard of them.
If you don't see a fleet of those golf cars on a golf course,
Now I got you.
Do you think that one's going to last you?
The company's gone.
yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
If those golf carts can handle the abuse of golf course players,
They'll
Then
probably
it'll
be
probably
okay.
Well,
work.
I would assume that would be that would be one of the rejections for you. Is, man, look, I know your car is better, straight up. I know it's better, but I'm going to put it out here with 200 golfers a day. They're going to get torn up. Then where am I, right? And I can buy a fleet of these other guys, the other guy, and they're a little more, cheap or whatever. And if they get torn up, I'm not as worried about it.
Yeah. Well, I heard a story the other day from one of our dealers that guy had one of these Chinese carts and he had it for a month. He paid $9,000 for it. Well, 4-seat car with, it wasn't like done up, but it was nice.
China.
China. And motor went out on him. Took it in and said, all right, can you kind of diagnose it, see what's going on? And they found out, okay, motor's toast, battery's toast. Well, it's got to be basically mechanically replaced. Warranty did not cover.
Ah.
So
Shocker.
you're on your own there. $9,000 golf car would have cost $6,500 to repair. And it would have taken him 3 months to get the parts from China to repair it.
and now he's at 15,500.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So,
Thanks, China.
yeah, the guy bailed out and got a club car, and dealer gave him $1,000 for it and said, "Look, I'll give you $1,000 for it just because I feel bad."
So, like, that same cart with club car,
nice.
though, how much?
I don't know. Like I say, I sell the golf course.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So I mean, your range is going to be pretty wide depending on what's on it. I
Sure.
mean, you might 4-seater, you might be anywhere from 15 to 20, depending
Yeah.
on how it's done up.
But you have a company that's going to stand behind their product,
Yeah.
especially after a month.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you're
we've
dealing
got
with
a
local-
great dealer here with Ironside, and I'm guessing you've never dealt with him.
No, I don't deal with the
Over at
any
Anco.
consumer dealers. I've got a couple of the dealers that will help us. When we deliver a fleet, they come off the truck without the canopies, without the roofs on them. Mm-hmm. So that way we can get 28 in a truck instead of 14 in a truck because they're double layered. There's a floor in the middle.
That's cool.
So I've got a couple of dealers that will help us out on prep. So they'll go out and meet the delivery drivers at the golf course and help assemble the cars. So those are really the only dealers I work with. I'm not super tied in with all of them around the whole territory, especially if they're not a club car dealer. But yeah, it's just different.
Yeah.
It's
I think that's all Anco carries, isn't it? It's club car.
I'm not
Anco's
sure.
club car, yeah.
Yeah, it's just all club car. Man, he's got some cool stuff over there, dude.
Yeah.
If you want a golf cart, go check out Anco. It's
Those
awesome.
guys. Yeah, and if you're further north, I got to plug my guys at West Texas Golf Cars.
Dude, they've been around so long.
Yeah.
They were up there when I was there.
Yep, Amarillo and Lubbock.
They do a great job too.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, is that one of the independents you're talking about helping out?
Mm-hmm.
Putting them, okay, because I remember those guys coming out and they would bring us lease cars. Like if we had a tournament where we needed to rent 40 cars from
rentals.
them or whatever.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
awesome, man.
That's another thing to pay attention to is the guys that have rental fleets. When you're at a golf course and you see like 10 carts that don't match because that course didn't have enough for whatever tournament or whatever.
Right.
Look at how many of them are club cars.
Most of the rental fleets are club car.
Because the dealers that are doing the rentals know that's a safe play for them to have a bunch of extra club cars laying around because they know they put the key in and it's going to work.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, those club cars, they're tighter. They drive better.
Yeah. Drives more like a car.
Really, it does.
That's what I mean. Just the vernacular. I don't call them golf carts. I call them golf car. If it's ours, it's a golf car.
Brilliant.
I've been calling it wrong the whole time.
Okay, Brian.
Well, the other ones you're fine. It's a club car.
What is by far, because you play too, what is by far your favorite moment in golf for you personally? It could be funny. It could be good.
Probably. Well, I don't know if I'd call it favorite. It's just it's funny on the outside, but it's not really funny to me. I have 2 hole-in-ones, and I didn't see either one go in.
Oh,
It was both blind.
Like you couldn't see the green from where
No,
you were?
yeah, you couldn't see the surface of the green. You can see the flagstick.
Oh my gosh.
So one of them was at Ridgely Country Club in Fort Worth, and the guys I was playing with said, "That's in." I was like, "No, it's not." And I get up there and then no ball on the green, so I'm looking around and they're like, "No, it's in. Look, there's a pitch mark." And it pitched about 4 inches from the hole and just dunked. And then the other one was I was probably 17 playing at Pecan Valley in Fort Worth.
Golly, man.
On the Hills course, Pecan Valley.
You've
And there's
had 2 great hole-in-ones in.
the uphill little par 3, and again, didn't see it go in. I spent 5 to 10 minutes walking around behind the green looking for my ball because I was playing by myself. There was nobody else there. It was high school golf.
So did it
Then-
happen?
yeah.
Did it happen?
The ball is in my desk drawer at home. It did happen.
All right.
It was Strixon.
Was it really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
So it was, high school golf isn't like what it used to be. It wasn't, a bunch of just packed groups and coaches driving around. The coach was somebody who had time to kill after work that was a teacher.
Yep.
And, this was in the 90s, and I had like a Buffalo vinyl Burton bag from like the 70s.
Yeah, you
For
did.
high school. I mean, it was gross. We weren't talking about the AJGA schedules and which events you were going to play. It was you could go to Pecan Valley after school and play for $6.
Yeah.
But there's nobody around. Didn't see it. Spent forever looking for the ball. I finally gave up and was walking. So I was walking back to where my bag was because it was closer to the cart path, and I had to walk by the hole and glanced over, and freaking balls in the hole.
Did you lose your mind, or were you just like, are you kidding me? I spent all this time looking.
Oh yeah,
for this thing.
I lost my mind. I was looking around, and there was nobody.
Nobody got to witness it.
Well, at Pecan Valley in Fort Worth, there's the river course and the hills course. The river course is much better. The hills course is where the high school kids got to play after school because it wasn't busy because everybody wanted to play the river.
yeah.
Nobody. Ghost town. Nothing. And then I have a double eagle on Whitestone. Didn't see that one go in either.
Oh my gosh.
But the one at Whitestone, there was a group walking off the green. It just ripped a 3-iron. And at the time, Whitestone, back then, the maintenance was not fantastic. And there was a lot of reeds around a little creek. It was number 10 at Whitestone. And sometimes those reeds would grow up to a point where you couldn't really see the putting surface very well. So, I mean, it hit a good shot. And it was tracking. I was like, okay, that's on. I'm putting. I'm walking back to the cart. And the group that was walking off the green, because I heard it hit flagstick. You know that sound.
Oh,
that
yeah.
whack. And the group that was walking off the green just started hollering.
Losing their
Like,
mind.
I was like, all right, I got to kick in eagle here and get up to the green. No ball. I'm like, these motherfuckers. They went down there and took my freaking ball.
Yeah.
In the hole. So It's like my 3 greatest golf accomplishments, and didn't see really any of them.
See, I've had an albatross, but I've never had a hole in one.
Yeah.
I'd
I've
rather
never
have
had an ace.
I'd rather have a hole in one.
And I can't even say that I've been, man, I hit it, and I mean, it should have gone in. And I can't even say that. I maybe a foot or two is as close as I've hit it.
Well, there's so much luck involved. There really is. I mean, you can hit just the
I don't know, bro. If you
perfect-
do it twice,
you can hit the perfect golf shot, and there's so many environmental factors. There's so many conditions on the green itself.
I feel
Catch a
Coming
good
from
bounce, catch a
somebody
bad
that's
bounce.
had 2 of them.
I feel
Kelly
better.
Grunwald had 14,
yeah.
Yeah.
one of which was on a par 4. Is it still luck at that point?
Yeah. How many times did that ball bounce
Yeah, that's true.
between when it landed and when it
Yeah.
went in the hole?
Yeah.
Yeah.
14 though.
How many
That's a
screwy
bunch.
bounces have you seen on a golf course?
Yeah.
Have you ever played Sugar Tree in Weatherford? There's no other golf course on the planet you can hit more golf balls down the middle of the fairway and lose your ball.
Have you played Rainmaker?
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
You don't show up at Rainmaker without
Stupid.
2 dozen golf balls.
Yeah. You hit the perfect drive.
Yeah, and the bounce can do so many wild things. You just don't know.
Yep.
You're right.
You can hit the perfect golf shot 100 times in a row, and like 4 of them will go in.
What's your lowest round?
66, I think.
66.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. When you work golf, you don't really play golf.
If you want to play
was
golf,
about
do
to
not
ask
get in
you.
the golf industry.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I could. My short game is so bad. I mean, I could go if I'm hitting fairways and greens, I'll shoot around even par a couple over. If I'm missing greens, I might shoot 90.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so bad.
That sounds familiar, actually.
This is actually a great question to have Brian in the hot seat. Chris asked this question. He goes, why in the world did the Balata ball become a thing of the past? They took away the greatest cover of all time.
Smiley faces.
Smiley faces.
Durability.
It just wasn't durable.
Yeah, I think there's a scale of cost and durability,
Sure.
because if you're a manufacturer selling a disposable item, if that item is disposed of sooner, you sell more disposable items. So I believe Balata got to a point where it just cost more than it was worth to continue on.
Yeah.
Well, and its shelf life, and then
Yeah.
the core, the
whole
core
other
technology changed the game, and it's why Jack's trying to roll the ball back.
Yeah.
Is because
Ball's where it's at.
that's where all the gains are, really.
But you'd get maybe 3 holes in with wedge shots, and you're changing a golf ball with
For
the Balata.
sure, bro.
Yeah.
Ripping the cover.
Yeah, and the early urethane stuff was really bad about that too.
Yeah.
It's so much better now than it used to be. But the thing is, the ball, I feel like, drives a lot of the equipment change because there's less rules in place about what a ball can do. Mm-hmm. There's more rules in place about what a club can do. So as the manufacturers continue to evolve the performance of the golf ball, the club changes to optimize what the ball is today.
Yeah.
So you can take. That's why we were talking about this earlier. There's still a couple guys that work for Cleveland are playing high bore XLs. That the high bore didn't spin with the golf ball 20 years ago.
Imagine what that thing's going to do now.
Yeah.
If you got somebody who just cannot get spin under 3,500 RPMs, get them in something that used to be an extremely low spin driver with the modern golf ball. Forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to hit it 30 by whatever.
That
else.
old Bridgestone driver.
Oh, yeah.
Adams Insight BTY, the 4350.
Yep.
That thing was stupid. My
Hell
favorite
yeah.
driver
Do you
of
still?
all
I
time.
bought you one.
It's in my
about-
garage.
Do you still have it back
Yeah.
10 years ago? Chris says, I played the best golf of my life with the Balata balls. The control with them is unmatched compared to today's technology, in his opinion.
That's
Agreed.
true. That's
Agreed.
true. The new balls don't move as much.
Yeah.
And he's hitting another thing on the head, dude. I mean, Chris is 100% correct. Probably the best feeling golf ball of all time.
Absolutely.
No question. And it will move.
He said Titleist made a fortune off of him. Yeah. Said buying cases at a time. Yeah. Okay. I have one last question for you, Brian.
Yeah.
since we are doing this live, we're going to end it with college football because it's college football season.
Oh, you're asking the wrong guy.
Who's your team?
I don't have a team. I went, I didn't finish college. I went to Texas Wesleyan in Fort Worth, who did not have.
I didn't know that.
And I've being a Fort Worth guy, I've kind of partially adopted TCU, but I don't really pay close attention to college football.
But if you were to root for one, it'd be TCU.
Probably, yeah. Just the hometown connection. My brother's an alum. My grandpa's an alum. My uncle's an alum.
Yeah.
Are you a football guy at all?
Unfortunately, I'm a Cowboys guy.
I ain't buying it.
It's
That was heartbreaking.
But then, on my mom's side of the family, my grandpa's from Wisconsin. I mean, he's from that area. He was a big
Packers,
big Badgers guy, and big Packers fan.
Wisconsin.
We got family up there that are season ticket holders. So I've got a Packers soft spot too.
Yeah,
there you go. I'm a glutton for punishment as well. I'm a Mississippi State fan, and we had a cakewalk this past weekend. Went into Toledo, and we're just gonna have an easygoing game. Got beat 41-13.
Mississippi.
that was at your place, bro.
Yeah, it was a Starks. It's not pretty.
If you're a Mississippi State guy, are you like the only guy who's happy about Dak playing for the Cowboys?
I am a Dak fan.
I like Dak too, but I'm not a Cowboys fan anymore.
I'll say it like this: Dak
I'm a
was
Lions
the
fan
last
now.
chance we had at being a good football team. We went into Alabama that year, our 8th game of the year. We were undefeated, number 1 ranked in the AP polls, and Alabama embarrassed us.
It was a big game, and that's what Dak does.
Yeah, absolutely.
He has
Throws up all over himself.
I'll give you this. He has the intangibles, as they call it.
Great leader. Yeah.
Great leader. Fantastic locker room guy. Wonderful leader of men.
Absolutely.
Statistically.
But one would think to be the highest paid player in the history of the National Football League as a quarterback,
Oh, Jesus.
you would have to be able to accurately throw a football.
It was bad.
Yeah.
You're a Cowboys
I'm
fan,
not
so
complaining about
we
this
can't
weekend.
progress.
I'm talking. Yeah, it's
we have to be fair here. The Saints are known for running up games on people in the first half.
Yeah.
They're known for it.
Come on, bro. It's the Saints. They're terrible.
They're known
Derek
for
Carr's their quarterback.
My buddy
We've got
posted.
this
My
vaunted
buddy goes,
defense,
I
right?
would trade Dak for Derek right now.
Yeah. I said we, by the way. I'm not a Cowboys fan anymore. I
You
forgot
are
about
no,
that.
you are. Hey, how about the Vikings?
Yeah, they're awesome. My Lions, they lost this week, but that's all right. We'll be back.
I was for sure you were going to switch to the Vikings.
No, Jared did switch to the
I
Vikings.
did switch to the Vikings, but JJ got hurt. So then I
know.
had to go with my secondary team, which is the Lions.
I thought after this weekend you would switch back to the Vikings. They looked really good.
No, when JJ gets back, I'll be a Vikings fan.
All right.
Well, we
But
got
if
another
JJ
week.
What
gets
I'm not
back,
going to
really
do
know.
is fall for the Cowboys stuff. That's
Yeah.
what I'm not doing.
I'm out.
I mean, after week one,
I'm out.
every Cowboy, ESPN,
Yeah,
they're
Super
going to the
Bowl.
Super Bowl. They're this, they're that. I was like, I ain't buying it, and that's why. What happened with the Saints? It was predictable.
well, take a look at who the Saints hired as their offensive coordinator. Clint Kubiak. Who was he with before? The 49ers. Who demolishes the Cowboys the past 3 years?
Every
The
single
49ers.
It's
Man, that
painful.
It's the
was like
offensive
a-
scheme. It picks apart our secondary.
Yeah, he took us on a journey, but he landed the plane.
He did.
Yeah, as a guy who grew up with the Fort Worth Star Telegram front pages of the Super Bowl wins from the '90s, thumbtacked to the wall in his bedroom.
Yes.
It's
It's
heartbreaking.
so painful.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a Jerry Jones thing.
Ask Mertz, is OU going to win?
Hey, Chris, is OU going to win? And for all
Tennessee's
those
a tough game.
for all those
They got a tough
watching
game this week.
right now, let us know in the comments who your team is and how they're doing this year. Jared, how's the Wolverines doing?
Well, I'm going to try not to cuss on the live feed here, but Sharon has made the most brilliant decision, and I say that as facetious as possible, to start Alex Orgy against USC. We are currently 5.5-point dogs at home against the Trojans, and that should probably be triple
Yeah.
with Alex Orgy starting. He throws it. you know what? I'm going to say it this way. I'm 44 years old.
Hey, by the way, pause.
What?
Happy birthday. Jared's birthday was yesterday. Happy belated birthday. All those live, let's get some happy birthdays in the comments. Happy belated birthday.
I wanted to stay under the radar there, but
Happy belated birthday.
my point was I'm 44 and I'm 100% sure I can throw the football better than Alex Orgy. 100%.
You see the mountains over there?
Yeah,
I can throw a ball over the mountains.
a quarter mile. But you know what I can do? I can't do that, but I can throw it 7 yards, which Orgy has proven multiple times he cannot do. So my Wolverines are in trouble. But you know what? It's okay. Go blue.
Go blue.
We're gonna be fine. We're gonna beat the Trojans. I don't know how.
I don't know how it's gonna happen. But
I don't know how.
Happen.
Punt
But
return
it's gonna
touchdowns. Only
Punt return.
chance.
Hey, Connor, how's the Maggies?
Well, they started off kind of rough. I kind of made some false claims to start off the year.
Yeah, shocker.
Every Aggie fan ever.
But we've got a lot of promise, especially with Reed having the game he did. I'd love to see a dual quarterback look in our backfield.
Yeah. I've heard all about this quarterback. He's the second coming, and he's the man.
No,
He's the next
we were
Johnny.
talking about Wegman, and he is good, but Reed was poised.
Oh yeah, man.
Okay, how about you have fun with Orgy and Warren? Your situation
just sounds
is way
funny.
worse.
Listen. I'm gonna,
No, you're not.
and here's the deal. I'm realistic. You're an Aggie fan, and you're in the clouds with your quarterback.
You just said you're going to beat USC.
Isn't he a freshman?
Both of them are. Well, no. Well, technically redshirted, but yeah.
Yeah.
Merch just said, I love OU, but I don't think we have a chance against Tennessee.
Really?
Yeah, that's what he just
That
said.
really shocks me.
With a college football discussion and with an Aggie fan in the room, I've got a question. Is there another program in the country that hates everyone else more than they like their own school?
No.
Is there a program in the country
That hates every else
that hates everyone else
more than they
More
love
than
their
they
own
like
school.
their own school.
Aggies hate
like
Visceral hate.
everybody else more than they love.
For me,
their
it's
school.
just Texas. I don't know what y'all are talking about.
I don't know about that, but I know that they do hate Texas, and I do know that they are delusional every year.
They beat Alabama one time, and
But
they
Hey, Clinton,
it is the greatest place to go watch a game.
how many times did Mississippi State beat Alabama?
0.
There you go.
Maybe back in the 60s.
Who beat Nick Saban's Alabama? We did it twice.
You're right.
And won a Cotton Bowl against Mertz's OU's.
Oh,
That's going to get him riled up.
sorry, Chris.
Yikes.
Yeah, for me, it's just Texas. And apart from Nathan and Sean in this shop, everybody hates Texas. So,
Everybody
Shawnee's
hates.
a Texas fan?
yeah.
Oh, boy.
All right,
It's so polarizing.
let's round it out, guys. Thanks for joining us on the live stream. Leave your comments and let us know who your team is and who they got this week. If you have any comment or questions for Brian, leave them in the comments. We'll get them to him and get an answer for you. Thanks for joining us live right here on Facebook and YouTube. I love this.
Yeah, it's great.
I think it's the greatest thing ever.
Fowler,
Brian,
thanks for coming
Yeah.
on, dude.
Yeah, no problem.
You're awesome, dude.
thanks for driving down from Lubbock this morning and being with us. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to us. And hopefully you got a fitting with the one and only Jay come February.
Yeah. We
Get
retool a
re-kitted.
little bit for the spring.
Get re-geared. Get that game back down in the 60s.
Oof. It's a tall order.
Nah, you got it. You got
It's a
it.
tall order.
You got it. Thanks for joining us this morning. You can rewatch this. It'll re-air Friday night, 9 p.m. on YouTube. Thanks for joining us, and we will catch you on the next one on the flip side. See you guys soon.